Every US state ranked from safest to deadliest wildlife. Last year, sharks killed 2 people in the United States. 2. Add up bears, alligators, and every venomous snake in the country, and you get a couple dozen more. And deer? Deer killed around 440. The animal you'd let a child feed at a petting zoo runs up a body count the entire rest of the food chain can't touch, because it steps into the road at dusk and comes straight through your windshield. That's the problem with how we picture danger in America. We map it backwards. We're terrified of the deep woods and relaxed in the backyard, when it should very often be the other way around. So let's redraw the map properly. 50 states ranked from the safest ground you could stand on barefoot to the one place where you are flatly not the top of the food chain, and never were. 3 rules decide it: how many things there can kill you, how good they are at it, and how likely you actually are to meet one. Disease-carrying insects don't count. They win every list, and it's boring. We're starting dead last at number 50, and by the top 3, the question stops being what lives here and turns into how many different ways can one state do it. Keep an eye out for the entry sitting way too high in the middle. It's going to look like a mistake until it isn't. Number 50, let's go. At the very bottom, the scariest thing waiting for you outside is the weather. Rhode Island and Delaware are the same short conversation. No bears worth the word, no wolves, no mountain lions. Your apex predator is a coyote that has somewhere better to be, and the deadliest water you'll touch holds a shark you'll statistically never swim near. You could spend a whole life here, and your closest brush with the food chain is a raccoon losing a fight with a trash can lid. Connecticut and New Jersey climb a rung. Black bears are quietly stepping back into the northern woods, a few copperheads hide in the rock, but these states are so paved and so crowded that a real wildlife encounter is almost an accident. And then there's Massachusetts, which earns a strange little crown. By one CDC-based analysis, it's the state where you are least likely to be killed by an animal at all. Hold that thought right next to the top of this list, because here's the tell for this whole tier. The single most dangerous animal any of these states can throw at you is a deer standing in your headlights. Nothing here has ever taught anyone to watch a tree line, which is exactly why, the day something changes, nobody will be looking. And something is changing. Just north and west, the map starts loading up. These are the states rewilding while everyone stared at their phones. Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois now hold venomous snakes, copperheads, and in pockets, timber rattlers, and even cottonmouths. Plus black bears drifting back into ground they were wiped out of a century ago. And Illinois runs one of the fattest coyote populations in the country, including inside Chicago, where biologists have radio-tracked coyotes denning in the gaps between freeways and crossing downtown at 3 in the morning. You are right now closer to a wild predator in the middle of a major American city than most people will ever let themselves believe. Pennsylvania is where the tier turns serious. It carries one of the biggest black bear populations in the eastern United States and stacks it directly on top of where people sleep. Not remote wilderness bears, trash night bears, back porch bears. The roster isn't what moves Pennsylvania up. The odds of walking into it are. And yes, New York belongs here too, because past the skyline, it's mostly forest. The Adirondacks alone are wilder and larger than several entire states below this point. Black bears and coyotes moving through country big enough to hide all of them out of sight. One quick question before we climb. Of everything so far, which state actually surprised you? Drop it below, I read them. Now hang on, because the next tier is where the animals stop being a footnote and start weighing half a ton. New rule up here. The thing most likely to kill you isn't a predator at all. It's a wall of muscle standing in the road. Maine is the face of it. It holds one of the highest black bear counts in the country, but that's not the number that should worry you. The number is moose. Tens of thousands of them. An animal taller than the roof of your car, invisible against dark timber that doesn't roll over the hood in a crash. It comes through the windshield. Up here, the deadliest wildlife encounter of your life is the one you have doing 60 on a 2-lane road at dusk, and you never see it coming. Vermont and New Hampshire run the same math, on steeper ground. Then the Great Lakes turn it up. Wisconsin and Michigan add something the East doesn't have. Real breeding wolf packs, among the largest in the lower 48, layered over black bears, with moose back in the mix up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Minnesota takes the tier outright. One of the biggest gray wolf populations anywhere outside Alaska. Thousands of black bears, moose, and timber rattlesnakes in the south. Predators, giants, and venom in one state. And that phrase, outside Alaska, should tell you where this is going. Everything up here is still just a warm-up. From this point on, it stops being about the odds of an encounter. It becomes about what happens when you lose one. Now you watch where you put your hands. Colorado and Utah are the mountain build. Mountain lions, black bears, moose, and rattlesnakes spread across terrain rugged enough that a bad step leaves you a long way from help. In Colorado, it's increasingly the moose, not the bears, that rangers warn you about. Utah bolts on desert. More snakes, more scorpions the second you drop below the pines. Then it slides south and into the water. The Carolinas, Georgia, and up through the Mid-South add a player the mountains don't have: the American alligator on the coastal plain, on top of black bears and some of the highest venomous snakebite rates in the country. Oklahoma and Arkansas run a wide, strange spread. Lions confirmed in the west, gators and cottonmouths in the southeast, and a wild hog problem swelling every single year. But hold that thought about the water, because you still haven't seen the top of this list, and the next few entries are where it stops being a nature documentary and turns into a place where the food chain is fully intact and completely indifferent to you. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and coastal Georgia are where 3 separate nightmares share one zip code: 10-foot alligators in the swamps, the highest wild hog numbers in the nation, tusked and willing to charge, and bull sharks working the brackish river mouths where the fresh water meets the Gulf. The one shark that breaks the rule every other shark keeps, sliding out of salt water and miles up rivers into places no one thinks to watch. Picture a kid on an inner tube, drifting a slow brown river 40 miles from any beach. That water isn't empty, it just looks empty, and that's the danger you can at least brace for. Now, remember the entry I told you would look like a mistake? Look at Hawaii on paper and your gut screams number 50. No bears, no wolves, no mountain lions, no native land snakes at all. It should be the safest state in the country. It's number 7 because Hawaii is the one place where the danger isn't optional. It's the water, and the water is the entire reason you flew there. Tiger sharks patrol these coasts year-round and account for the large majority of serious attacks in the islands, and they are not the polite kind that takes one bite and reconsiders. Box jellyfish arrive on a schedule you can nearly circle on a calendar. Roughly 8 to 10 days after a full moon, they flood the leeward beaches, and a single sting can run from screaming pain to cardiac trouble. On one bad morning off Honolulu, lifeguards logged well over 100 stings before lunch. And the cone snail, a shell so beautiful people slip it in a pocket, that fires a venom-loaded harpoon into the hand that picked it up, carrying a toxin with no antivenom anywhere on Earth. Every state above this one, you can simply stay out of the woods. In Hawaii, the threat is dissolved into the exact 90 feet of turquoise the whole trip was built around. Which brings us, at last, to the very top of the list, and it's about to get much bigger. California is danger split straight down the middle. Thousands of mountain lions moving through the coastal ranges and foothills, black bears in the Sierra, wild pigs, and great white sharks patrolling the surf line off some of the most crowded beaches on the continent. On roster alone, it could sit higher. What pins it at 6 is arithmetic. The people are jammed into cities, and that drops the encounter rate hard. But the seams give it away. The trailhead at dawn, the fog line where the last cul-de-sac runs out and the chaparral begins. That's lion country, and every few years, California gets a sharp reminder that it never stopped being lion country. A runner, a mountain biker, a hiker on a trail 30 minutes from a coffee shop. Then there's the water. The same beaches packed shoulder to shoulder in July sit on top of a great white nursery. The young sharks cruising closer to shore than almost anyone swimming there realizes. This is the last state where the danger is still politely keeping its distance. The next 5 don't bother. Everyone who flies into Wyoming is afraid of the wrong animal. They come to Yellowstone braced for the grizzly, and the grizzly is real, and so are the wolves, and so are the moose. But the animal that hurts more people in this park than every predator combined isn't a predator at all. It's the bison. Rangers say it flatly. Bison injure more visitors than anything else in Yellowstone, and it isn't close. The math is almost funny until one is standing in front of you. In 2025, the park's herd sat around 5,300 bison. Grizzlies in the park? Around 1,000. Wolves? Barely over 100. Cougars? Fewer than 50. So the biggest animal, in the biggest numbers, standing calm as furniture beside the boardwalk, that's the one that gets you. Because it looks like a slow brown couch and it moves at 35 miles an hour, faster than any sprinter alive. And people keep learning it the hard way. In the summer of 2026, a man was launched 8 feet into the air by a bull. A 12-year-old was hurt near Mud Volcano weeks later. 2 more gored the season before. Every time, someone had crept in for a photo of an animal that can pivot faster than they can flinch. Wyoming, with its twin Montana next door, is the last true stronghold in the lower 48 where grizzly, wolf, and moose still share a single valley. But sharing a valley with them isn't what earns number 5. What earns it is that the thing that gets you here is the one you walked right up to. And this still isn't the deadliest state because the next one doesn't need you to walk up to anything. If Wyoming is about size, Arizona is about chemistry. This is the venom capital of the country and the count backs it. 13 species of rattlesnake, more than any other state. The western diamondback alone causes more serious bites than nearly anything with fangs in North America, and it won't always warn you first. But the snakes have company. The bark scorpion, an inch and a half of the only scorpion here whose sting is a genuine emergency, is also the best climber of them all, which is why it turns up on ceilings, in a folded towel, inside the shoe by the door. Arizona logs something like 12,000 scorpion stings a year. Add the Gila monster, one of only 2 venomous lizards on the planet, that clamps down and chews the venom in rather than striking and letting go. Add Africanized bees, dug in for decades, that answer one bump to the hive with 10 times the fury and chase you a quarter mile to make the point. And under all of it, the heat. An environment that will put a lost hiker down before anything with venom gets its turn. Arizona is the only state holding all 4 North American deserts, and it fills every one of them with a different way to be poisoned. It's the state where the smallest things do the most damage, and the next one does damage in every size at once. Texas doesn't win a single category. It wins by having a little of everything, and a lot of some of it. Start with the number nobody believes. Roughly 3 million feral hogs. In every county but one. Only El Paso has kept them out. These aren't shy. A boar pushes past 200 pounds, armored and tusked. And unlike almost any large animal, it holds its ground and charges. They do more than $500 million in damage a year, and have started pushing into subdivisions after dark, drawn to watered lawns and the water itself. Then stack the rest on top. West Texas holds a real mountain lion population. And here's the part that unsettles people. For decades, Texas classed the lion as non-game, killable year-round, no season, no limit, and until very recently, no requirement to even report it. A state sharing ground with thousands of them simply wasn't counting. Add the hill country rattlesnakes, add alligators across the east, and add the one that gets under the skin, bull sharks again, miles up Texas rivers, one turning up dead 40 miles inland, turning a calm fishing bank into shark water with nothing on the surface to warn you. Land, desert, swamp, city edge, river bottom. Texas can come at you from any direction, and it's big enough to hide all of it at once. But variety isn't the same as inevitability. The next state doesn't spread its danger across a map, it stacks it in your neighborhood. Florida takes second because it erased the one rule that keeps you safe everywhere else. The rule that says danger lives in the wilderness and you're fine as long as you stay out of it. There is no out of it in Florida. An estimated 1.3 million alligators spread across all 67 counties. Think about what that actually means for where they are. The retention pond behind the office park? The water hazard on the golf course? The lake where kids wait for the school bus? An adult male passes 10 feet and closes the distance in a fraction of a second, and the state has just decided to live with it, stepping past the neighborhood gator the way a commuter steps over a subway grate. And the ones wildlife officers fear most aren't the wild ones. They're the fed ones. A gator tossed a marshmallow loses its fear in the exact pond where children swim. Then the native wildlife steps aside for the strangest predator story in America. Tens of thousands of Burmese pythons, dumped from the pet trade, now spread across more than 1,000 square miles of the Everglades. They've been pulled out at over 17 feet, with whole alligators inside them. And in parts of that ecosystem, they've erased nearly every small mammal, raccoons, opossums, bobcats, simply gone. Stack on venomous snakes, sharks off both coasts, and the ghost rare Florida panther still moving through the southern forests. Almost every ecosystem in this state keeps its own apex predator, and not one of them requires you to go looking. Florida is the state where the danger already lives in the yard, and everyone has quietly agreed not to think about it, which leaves exactly one place above it, and there, nobody gets to pretend. Number 1 is the one place on this map where you are simply not in charge. Alaska is the only state where all three North American bears live, black, brown, and polar, and it holds them in numbers nowhere else touches. Around 30,000 brown bears, something like 98% of every brown bear in the United States. On the salmon coasts, Kodiak, the Alaska Peninsula, Admiralty Island, they pack in at close to a bear per square mile, some of the largest on Earth. Animals that stand taller than a doorway when they rise. Add wolves, add moose, which kill more people in this state than the bears do. Add musk oxen out on the open tundra, and along the northern edge, the polar bear. The only bear on the continent that will hunt a human on purpose, on a coastline where the ice is its hunting ground and you are simply on it. But the roster isn't why Alaska wins. It's the multiplier no other state has. Everywhere below this, a bad encounter ends with an ambulance and a hospital half an hour out. Here, help can be hundreds of miles away, across country with no road, no signal, and no one who knows where you went. The cold does half the work. The distance does the rest. The wildlife only has to start it. Every other state on this list, humans rearranged the food chain and set themselves at the top of it. Alaska never allowed it. So picture the honest version of number 1. Not a city with a snake in the flower bed, but a single figure on a gravel bar as the light goes. 1,000 miles of mountains in every direction. Something large shifting in the willows across the river, and not one person on Earth close enough to hear it. The strangest part of this whole list is how badly the map of our fear matches the map of the danger. Drop your state below and tell me I ranked it too high or too low. I'll be reading every single one.